Hi, my name's Tom, and my laser vision question will be, how do we survive space travel in order to inhabit other planets in the face of galactic calamity? If, let's say, this were to happen. So this problem is important to me, just as it should be important to everybody. What are we prepared to do as a race or as human beings to further our survival in the face of something like that happening? So my two opposing but equally useful answers to this problem would be cryostasis, and then it would probably be a hypermassive spacecraft built to house generational living for many, many years. Like, we're talking probably thousands of years to reach whichever planet would be able to house human beings. For cryostasis, we would have to learn like this. We'd have to look into cryostasis. We'd have to learn the actual freezing technique and the thawing technique. Like, there would be a specific way we'd have to do it, because you'd have to bring things back online, talking about the organs, pretty simultaneously, and then kickstart the heart and brain. It would take probably years of study to understand the effects of this on the body and biological life forms. Second, on a hypermassive craft, we would have to find the resources to build it. And where would we build it? Well, we'd probably have to build it in space. We would require the multitude of, the unity of Earth, people as a whole working together to build something like this. And it could take years as well. So time to kick off the whole scenario might take long, and it would vary depending on how science treated it. So some similarities. Some similarities is that they, both would enable us to travel through space for long periods of time, and safely hold down resources, as it were. They would increase the chance to reach the actual destination, which that's kind of the goal, isn't it, at the end? And it would continue the human race, or any race, like any species that we decided or we're able to take with us, depending on how we're doing that. The whole Noah's Ark thing. Another similarity, or similar mechanics that produce different outcomes. They travel in spacecraft. However, the uses of resources would be different. People frozen on a skeletal crew would require less resources than, say, families and families and families and people just living on a gigantic spacecraft and continuously going through life. They would use all those resources, and they would have to find ways to replenish them, recycling. Some differences. Well, with cryostasis, less people would live out their lives and die on a spacecraft, because that would be one of the major things. Also, the less resources would be used. Well, on a large craft, education could continue. Like, traveling through space would be an experience, and an experience you could learn from, and different problems arise, the things that we wouldn't even begin to understand now because we haven't done it, and they would be able to learn from them and grow with them. Skeletal crew with cryostasis would probably not, skeletal crew would see something and they would have to annotate it and all that stuff and train later, so it wouldn't be learning experiences as they come. And then in a large craft, records, the records can be kept. And of course, the benefit of each are both put together. The most valued benefit is the continuous life, or the existence of the human race, and also space travel. Huge benefit. The being able to go to planet to planet to planet. We can see what's out there. How we could do things like that? Probably like looking into nanotechnology with Bucky paper. Bucky paper is like 20 times lighter than steel and 240 times stronger. However, right now we fear like nanotechnology. We don't know the harmful effects. So we could use that. But looking into that could be a viable resource going into an endeavor like this. Elements of tension. Okay, elements of tension would be the time to initiate the plan, the time to actually carry it out, and then be out in space and moving. And the cost would be very much a strain on humanity in total, because we would need so many resources to build the crafts or or anything like that, things that we'd be needing to take to travel and how to replenish them. Like, so time costs, of course, and then one of the biggest tensions would be planetary cooperation, which we still have yet to do. Like, as a race, we just can't seem to get along at all. To make those tensions go away, well, we probably need it would be necessary to communicate proficiently throughout the world. Everybody would have to agree to let some things go and just kind of work together. I know that's a whole problem in itself, but I'm not here to solve that. I'm here to figure out how to move people to secondary planet, survive space explosion. But as well as moving, the monetary value, we'd have to remove monetary value from specific things. Like, we would need metals and we would need minerals and chemicals and things that cost a lot of money to make, and we'd actually have to bite the bullet and just take away monetary value because it would require everyone to be involved. And my assumptions on each going into the endeavor, like cryostasis, less people would live out their life and die on a spacecraft. I assume that as long as it went up, low resource usage is an assumption, and a smaller craft to build, so maybe a quicker time moving out. Like, you wouldn't need as many to house as many, right? With the generation, though, education would continue, and we would learn even more, I assume. And familiarization of space travel, that would occur just naturally. It would be organic to what's happening around. The resources would have to be figured out how to replenish those, especially resources that may not be able to be replenished. Now to go on some cause and effect. Some cause and effect. Okay, cryostasis, people that are in cryostasis, they're in a sleep. They do not require much. They don't require much food. They don't require much electricity or things like that. They're easy to maintain. So with a skeleton crew, a smaller, more manageable craft can be navigated with easier resource management. With a generational craft, however, cause and effect, with life being lived out on a large craft, continued learning be allowed, and families would be able to train each other, and they could. I would imagine that education would become more, or living would become more, built towards very specific jobs and roles on the craft, because it would be needed to maintain everything, from farmers to engineers to doctors and scientists. That you need that, but also you would probably need a way to govern. Like that many people, you need some regulations and laws and things to live by. Jump from cryostasis, less resources. I can burn that in. Now maybe not electric resources. I haven't brought that up. It might take more power to maintain these stasis units, or it might not. That's something we would learn through a trial and error testing period. And but with the gem from generational crafts, you can get it again. It's the education, the experience of space travel. Now, my double down. How could I combine these? And you could combine these. You could make the model of a generational craft could be extended by introducing cryotechnology into it. You could still have the moderately massive size at cryostasis, and those who would like to go into cryostasis, or people who are designated to at that time, and have certain families and generations living here, and then they will switch out. So more experiences could be gained, and more teaching methods of things that are learned as time goes on, life experience and wisdom, can be passed to the secondary group. Okay, so my new model would be the moderate to large craft, able to house generational and extended life, as well as cryostasis to maintain and further along life, so still less people would have to die, and you can withhold some resources just because not as many people have to be awake. And it would purpose to travel through space for long periods of time and still collect advancement through educational experience. Okay, a core assumption of the combined problems could be that the human error may be more applicable due to more life on the ship. Additional character risk is involved by each element separately as they add to the other. So you do get certain risks, but that's where you come up with your risk management section. My articulation of new problems for that would probably be with generational, how do you maintain order when involving multiple families and people and various groups of life and different sections of the world, because remember, we're trying to work together how do you handle these? How do you maintain these and govern these through all stages and ages of life as well? But with the new technology comes new sets of risks as well. That's another one. The new model will continue the same path. However, a system of regulation laws would have to take place, a compliance situation, a very monitored onset of rules. The story of my theory would be we'd have to begin talking. We talk. We learn what we need. We build. Then we start testing all these things. What are we testing? We're testing cryogenesis. Testing. You can test, like right now, you can test freezing things, bioorganic material, bringing it back. With the big ships, see how send. I mean, it would cost, but it would be our future. So build ships, send them out in space, see how it goes. Give people longer periods of time in space. Send crews out that go out and come back around, and they go further and further each time. Laservision. You get an achievement for that. Nice.